situation. I mean, you start here and go there and go here and go there, and it's just all over the place. Can you absolutely know that that's true? Usually is tell me about your last memorable fight.
Welcome to this interview series about how to do the work of Byron Katie with couples. I'm Judith Pfeiffer. I'm a certified facilitator of the work of Byron Katie, and I've been using this wonderful method in my work with couples. And I'm curious how other coaches are using it. So I'm here with Amel. Hi, Amel.
Hi, Judith. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Thank you. I got to meet you last year when I
Mhm.
got to take one of your beautiful online courses, which was an incredible experience. And I especially appreciated your presence, your knowledge, and your authenticity. So
Hmm.
thank you.
Thank you so much for that feedback. Yeah, it was wonderful to have you, and it was, yeah, a very experiential class for all of us, including, Deepa and I who taught it. So yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah.
So would you share with us just a little bit where you live and just a little bit about your work?
Yeah, I live in Southern California in this cute town called Ventura, and this is where I do my work. It's difficult to find the right label, but I call myself these days therapeutic coach. And I use many modalities for my coaching. One of it is IFS, inner family systems. Another one is hypnosis. Another one is somatics, which is basically healing the individual with an entry point towards the soma, which is the body, as well as RLT, which is something that's very specific to couples that I've learned. It's called Relational Life Therapy by Terry Real, a modality that I really love for use, in couples. And I do work with both individuals and couples. And also, when I do couples work, I see the couple itself as well as the individuals separately. I find that to be very helpful. So, and I, of course, use the work of Byron Katie. It's kind of an indirect method towards kind of challenging the beliefs of the people, whether they're in couples or just individuals. Yeah.
What would you say is one of the benefits of using the work of Byron Katie with couples?
Well, the first thing that I love is to anchor in a situation because with couple, they have so much history that if we don't anchor in a situation, I mean, you start here and go there and go here and go there, and it's just all over the place. And the anchoring in a situation, which what I bring usually is tell me about your last memorable fight. And that fight has everything. It has all the ingredients that need tackling. So we do that, and then we really anchor this work of Byron Katie, which is to always return to that situation and really anchor in that, and only that is really, really helpful. So that's one. I find it very effective. And the second are the questions. They're very simple questions, but they're very profound. I don't know how many times I noticed a shift when we really pause in silence, when somebody says something. And this is an example from yesterday when I saw a couple and the guy said, "Oh, my wife is not like that." As in, open and vulnerable and loving and so affectionate. And he just said that with such certainty. And we just paused in silence. And I'm like, is that really true? Can you absolutely know that that's true? And I could really see his eyes kind of, it's almost his mind was arrested, but like, oh, I've been thinking this my whole life. Maybe that's not true. It really opened an aperture that was squarely closed in his head. So the benefit, yeah, it's this anchoring, it's this being comfortable in being in silence so we can deepen. And the questions themselves are very powerful, very, very powerful.
How would you define what the work of Byron Katie is?
It's a beautiful method to get to know yourself. And in that knowing, to transform yourself without even trying. the way I see it is that if we have the courage, because it's not easy to like unpack your last fight with your spouse or partner and reveal the ugly things you may have said or the hurt that you may have caused to another. It's not easy. It takes courage, right? And that's why, starting small is good and then deepening and deepening. But the framework, the questions, the way they are arranged, their order, the sub-questions, is a very beautiful method to dive into yourself, really, in the end. I think it's diving into yourself, into your conditionings, into your pains, your hurts, your fears, your aspirations and desires, and really get to know yourself in the end. You also get to know your partner if you hear your partner doing the work. But diving in, giving pause and silence to those moments, to those powerful questions, anchoring in a very specific situation where you get mirrored yourself, your behaviors, right? Is just so profound, so transformational, at the same time beautiful. It's almost like a poetic way of getting to know yourself. So I love the work. I really do.
Oh, I love how you're describing it, and it really resonates with me. Yeah. And what's present for me is this sense of that it's just self-reflective, and it's a chance to, an invitation to look at yourself. Whereas when it's about a relationship conflict, it seems to be so much about what's out there, what's the trigger, what happened, and how did it happen, and all that is being acknowledged, and it's just this sweet, gentle invitation to look at yourself. And then, as you already gave that one example, to question it. Well, this assumption that I made, is that really true? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's say a couple signs up to take a couple sessions with you. So what can they expect in their first session?
Yeah, I always start with this question, which is my mentor, Terry Real, calls it the magical question. And I ask each of the individuals separately. And the question is, if I had a magic wand, a powerful magic wand, and I can kind of use it right now on you two, your marriage, your relationship, your lives, what would you want your life to be? And I ask that question under a broad umbrella, so to speak, in the sense that it's not just because the people usually will say, change her or change him, And I'm like, sure, but I'm interested in how would you like in the end to feel? How would you like to be and become? How would you like to interact with your partner? What is the kind of life that you want to have? How do you want to wake up in the morning and go to bed at night? How do you want to interact with your daily life, with your customers, with your family, with your friends, with yourself, with the events that life give you? So it's more like, how do you want to end in yourself? How do you want to live? So that not only brings the focus back to the self, because that's the only thing an individual can change. You cannot change anything else outside of you. But it also kind of, I feel it almost like puts them back in their seat because they're ready to like say, change her or change him. And this kind of almost brings them back to their seat and self-reflect. What do I want? How do I want to be and become? And that is a powerful question. And, often I find that like the response has multiple layers. Like you have the surface layers, and then the importance of pausing and giving time and silence to the reflection and the inner inquiry. And I find that the layers after that are like more and more profound, more and more self-reflective, more and more closer to what the individual is truly yearning for. So that's how I start. And then depending, what we find, which very often we find that there's a lot of dynamics within the couple that has been perhaps in place for so long that it seems impossible to dislodge or change. There is also potentially a lot of hurts that's been accumulated without repair or little repair. And just, depending on how much stress or stressors that couple has in their life, it just also is about tackling the hopelessness and helplessness they may feel and giving room for that, and it doesn't mean I'm telling them that I can fix your issues. I certainly cannot. But to make room for those emotions that are already present and just giving them room to breathe, is very healing on its own. And, they can kind of relax a little bit by just feeling that and not having to hold it to themselves, which already takes energy. So, yeah. And then, Judith, I have a lot of trust in the process itself. I try to come in with complete harmony within myself as much as I can, and presence and grounding. But then the rest, I really have a lot of trust in what happens in the room, virtual or otherwise. And I really follow what comes up. And yeah, I have a lot of trust in that. I really do. Yeah.
Well, you also have a lot of beautiful tools
I do.
to then bring to the table.
Yes, those help as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
those help as well.
Beautiful. I'm curious about resistance. Have you experienced any resistance from couples?
Yeah, I will say that we all have these psychological and emotional resistances because they are a coping mechanism that we had to develop over the years to live our lives, right? I can give you an example. A few weeks ago, I started with a very young couple, and when I started to ask some questions to the lady, there was just tremendous amount of resistance to diving in. Like it would just, maybe even basic questions about like, how do you feel the way that you feel? Or, let's dive into why do you think that behavior is really so predominant in you? Or it wasn't really following the Byron Katie framework, so to speak, but just the invitation for her to dive within was every time projecting back to her partner. She wanted the focus to be on him, and that's okay too. And of course, focus on both. This is not about one or the other. But what I felt was a solid resistance, almost like a wall that could not be penetrated at that moment. And the resistance, like, I don't want to dive in. And of course, in subsequent sessions, I learned that, there is, of course, a lot of trauma there, a lot of pain from childhood. That is why there is that resistance to not go there. But yeah, there is this, for this particular couple, there was this deflection back, answering my question with a sentence or two, but then a direct, immediate deflection back to no, but it's him, he said no. And of course we take those things into account, like it happens for a reason, so that we can unpack it. But that was a very clear resistance to me, and it was very hard to pierce through. I'm not sure we pierced through it too much, to be honest. But yeah, and again, to the point of respecting and trusting the process, I find that sometimes the individual system may not be ready for that to happen. And that's okay too. Like we all have our steps in life and our journeys. I can also tell you that if I use the Byron Katie framework directly on somebody, if they're not open, if they're not curious about their inner development, not everyone is, and even I was not in certain parts of my life. So it's like, again, everyone has their own journey. They can have very aggressive resistance to doing this work and asking these questions, because they're so basic, but they're so profound, because they turn everything around. Like, it's on you. Is it true for you? Are you sure it's true for you? What happens for you? Like, and the turnarounds are usually the most powerful, like your turnarounds around yourself. And so again, not everyone is ready yet to answer those questions, and that's okay. Like, it's dipping our toes is better than not dipping our toes at all. And maybe we dip our toes today, and tomorrow we take a first step, and so on. That's the
Yeah.
journey too.
What recommendation would you give to other coaches that are maybe wanting to try to use the work of Byron Katie with couples?
I would, of course, I'm assuming that's already done, but I will say it, to do the work on yourself for a long time, and I'm sure the coaches that want to use it already have, but I've been doing the work for over a decade and still do on a weekly basis. I mean, on a weekly basis, I have 2 sessions with Deepa, who you may know, and we exchange the work every single week. One session is for her, one session is for me. And what we do is just bring up whatever happened in our life, what's the latest upset, small and large. So to do firstly, the work on yourself for a really long time. And after that, it's to actually trust your intuition, your way of bringing the work into this environment with 2 people. It's 2 people, but to me, it feels like 3 because there is 2 people as well as this entity in between called relationship. And so the dynamic of using the work on an individual versus a couple seems very different to me, at least. And so to trust your own way of bringing it into that dynamic, and to, not be as rigid, it has to be this particular way. What is your way of asking question number 3? What is your way of like introducing a turnaround? It may be just very different. And it may not follow all the questions, it may not follow all the specific order. Yeah, like what I would say is, what is your way of like introducing this work?
Yeah. So how did you find the work?
Um, over a decade ago, somebody gifted me the book, but I can't tell you who that was.
Hmm.
I still don't remember who that was, but what's her main book again?
Loving What Is.
Loving What Is, exactly. And that was, one of the books that stay with you, right? It's just, a few books like that remain with me, like The Power of Now is another one, The Alchemist is another one. But somebody gifted me the book, and it was just very impactful. And I remember, like, I was in transit, I was living in Boston at the time, on the T, and I was just sampling and kind of doing some of the questions on me, like in transit. I found them so powerful, and by the time I got to the turnaround, I was just completely blown away. So that's how I found the work the very first time. And I looked into the school of Byron Katie, but it didn't really kind of pull me. But you know how life is. At some point, I think we were in COVID, and of course, she stopped her schools in COVID. But then, as soon as it started to reopen, she did her first and last school after COVID. After that, she does different trainings. But so I was very fortunate to be part of the very last cohort. But something compelled me to absolutely go for it. It was very clear, do this work, do this school with Byron Katie, which I did. It was a fabulous experience. That's where I met a few people that I'm still in touch with, and that's many years ago. Yeah, that's how I found the work, or maybe the work found me. And I'm very grateful for it. It's still a modality that I use on myself and my clients to this day.
Hmm.
And it allows me to meet people like you, wonderful people like you, because the community is very strong, and we all take each other's courses and we interact in different forums. I've done so many classes like the mother course, the father course, and all of that. So it also allows me to meet different people that are as steeped in the work as some of us are. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is a softening that maybe you noticed in couples that can happen by using any of the questions of the work of Byron Katie?
A big one I would say is question number 3, what happens for you when? And the softening happens especially on the partner who's witnessing the other doing that work, because that partner may have seen, I just said something and I don't understand how like it turned into that. And they do with question 3. Because question 3 says, well, yeah, actually you said that. And what happened for me is, this is what happened in my body. This is all the images that came up for me. This is all the emotionality. There is just an entire universe that bubbled and changed in that very microsecond. And though the individual doing the work is really the one transforming with that answer and that inquiry, I find that it softens the partner so much, because they really get an understanding and so much compassion for how that particular word landed in that environment and created havoc for that person. So I find that there is a lot of compassion, love, understanding, and softening that happens towards the partner. And that I find also that lasting, because it's like that understanding that moment, oh, it may have been just a word for me, but for them, it was an entire traumatic event that they had to deal with in the moment. Yeah, so I love question 3 for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that really describes my experience too in my work with couples. Yeah, I've heard partners say afterwards, well, I guess you've tried to tell me, but now I was able to hear you. I could actually hear it. I get it now. And there's, such a softening in that, and so much opening for connection.
It's beautiful when it happens, isn't it?
Oh, so moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Well, it was lovely to be with you, and thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your beautiful work with us that you do.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Judith. And I appreciate all the work that you do and moving, this work in the world with couples and individuals and groups. I know you give classes too.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate not only you, but the work that you do, and hope that we continue to cross paths in the work and even outside of it. Who knows?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes, my hope for this and with this is that couples and coaches get curious about the work of Byron Katie.
Yeah.
It is an amazing tool. It can really shift the way we look at each other and ourselves in such a profound and beautiful, transformative way.
Totally agree. Preaching to the choir.
Yes. So I'll put a link to your website, to your work, and also your contact information in the description, as well as more information about the work of Byron Katie.
Thank you, Judith. I appreciate it.
Thank you.